Woo! Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the boot camp. My name is Maria JD, and I'm here with Oscar. Oscar Trejo. Hi,
Hi
Oscar.
Maria, how are you?
Hi, everyone. Guys, very good to have you back. Let us know who is here. Say hi in the
I think Maria left for a second, so let me see if I can start sharing my screen while we wait. So sorry about yesterday. I wasn't able to make it on time. I had some issues with my internet, so thankfully Alfredo was able to cover. And as far as I saw, we actually achieved creating the base mesh using like a lot of spheres and creating like pretty much a mesh that you can use for not only this project but maybe a future project where you can actually avoid doing everything from scratch. Hi
That's the
Maria.
best. That's the best. That's the best. Yeah, I'm so glad I'm back. Hi, everyone.
I was just saying that what I'm gonna be doing today, which is gonna be like refining the model and all that.
Yes, exactly. Okay, guys, keep saying hi in the comments. I hope my internet doesn't break again. But even if it does, yeah, I was just telling Oscar, that's fine. I've got like plan B and plan C. Okay, so um, before I let Oscar actually run the show, because the show is his today, I'm just gonna remind like a few admin things to everyone who's coming back. Actually, when you're saying hi, just let us know if you're here. If it's your day one or if you were here yesterday as well. Also, we've got a little surprise prepared for the end. As promised yesterday, we've got a raffle of one of our programs. And yes, day 2. Hi, people from day 2. This is great. Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. By the way, talking about knock knocks, I don't know, Oscar, sorry you were not here, but I'm just going to show everyone, guys. I came prepared. Yesterday, we had Alfredo's neighbors ruining the show with their what was that? They were like doing some refurbishments or something. I came with fuck. So I came with a drum that you obviously didn't see because my connection broke again. But now you see my drum over there in the corner. This is my drum. So I'm going to be knocking if somebody, if something goes wrong or something goes too well. Anyway, so yeah, so knock knock jokes, yeah, will come from my side. Yeah, so the raffle will happen in the end. So please stay all the way until the end. We've got about 170 whips submitted, and you probably still have a few more moments to drop your whip to the Discord channel, or you can also tag us on Instagram. We'll also add this. We made the whole like very long chart of your names to like randomize it in the end of this class. And what else I was going to say, everybody who's just joining, just to remind you guys that we have ZBrush Fundamentals starter version, which we made entirely free. So if you're very new to ZBrush and you really don't know how to operate, how to use brushes, materials, and like just like very basic stuff, there is ZBrush Fundamentals starter. You can find it at Art Heroes website, artheroes.co. Find Emmanuel program ZBrush Fundamentals, and you'll be able to access starter version. So welcome to use that if you're new to ZBrush. If you're not, that's still great. We've got a lot of professionals here. So yeah, it's awesome. Awesome to have everyone. And we've got different levels of characters, so which is also amazing. Also, I'm going to be watching this space for any of like questions. Like if you write a question, maybe start with like Q, so it is like we don't lose your question. Yeah, hello, people from Mexico, France, US, and everywhere else. Yeah. Oscar, do you want to start with like a little introduction, maybe like a little bit about yourself? Because,
Sure.
yeah, it's been a lot of me talking, but yes.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So I'm a 3D artist from Mexico City. I've been working, I guess now it's been like 10 years in the industry in both animation,
Ooh,
video games, 3D printing. In 3D printing, I've been doing like jewelry, miniatures, toys, I mean, even medical stuff. And it's been a very wild journey, but I really enjoy sculpting and creating um, 3D models from scratch, stuff that well, you can actually imagine and then translate it into like a 3D model that you can actually print or maybe animate. It's really rewarding. I'm currently working on Amber, which is a video game studio, but I'm also doing some freelance for, as I said, jewelry stuff like that. I do streamings for the ZBrush channel, which is every Thursday around 8 p.m. Los Angeles, 10 p.m. Mexico City. Um, yep, that's pretty much. I think that covers
yes,
all.
exactly. Well, not all. If you want to learn more about Oscar, you can type in his name and Art Heroes podcast, because Oscar was one of our guests at the podcast
Yeah.
like a year ago. But I think it was great. Yes. Yeah, I see that people know you from Pixelogic channel. So, you're not entirely new to this community. And I'm going to
Yeah.
add that, yeah, that Oscar did our likeness program at Art Heroes. So he's also not one of our teachers, but also one of our students, which is great. I mean, like, I'm like secretly proud of that. We've got really like amazing students and amazing instructors. So you can see both,
Yeah.
the
So
kind
I
of a
can actually
two in one.
recommend Art Heroes not only as a teacher or giving like this workshop, but also as a student because I was looking forward to that workshop of likeness. So completely recommend it and join in if you have the chance.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're gonna open like new likeness intake probably in September and new stylized character intake this month. So we're probably gonna announce this guys later on. But yeah. Anyway, Oscar, I don't want to like grab a lot of your time. Shall we start sharing the screen? And
Sure.
as you do this, I can is Oscar family or of Danny Trejo? I mean, I,
I
I I
wish.
I guess you
I
can
really wish.
answer. Really? I mean,
Yeah,
you're
I
way
wish,
prettier than that. You're way prettier than that.
but not as awesome. I mean, Machete. That's
I don't
pretty cool.
know. Nah, yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, shall I add your screen?
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Okay, so yeah, I'm going on mute, but please, guys and girls, keep asking the questions. We'll definitely go back to all of them.
Okay, thanks. So first of all, sorry about yesterday. I wasn't able to join, but as I said before, I saw what you guys did with Alfredo, and it's pretty cool. Pretty much what I was gonna teach you guys was creating like a base mesh using spheres, and we're gonna be working a little bit more on that. After that, we're gonna be using Dynamesh or Sculptress to unite everything we created using spheres to have a more sculptable mesh. Then adding details, then some textures, and at the end, if we have enough time, we'll add some hard surface stuff to the character. Um, Usually, the way I work, it's with a lot of hotkeys. So I would recommend. I pretty much have my own mood board, just as you guys. So sorry, I have everything right here. I don't have two screens at the moment, so I'll have to move it around down here. So give me a second.
I'm gonna go full screen because people are asking. That's fine. Definitely. You'll see our faces later. You probably remember how we look like. Oscar, I'm hiding you.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So as I said, I try to work in a very fast way using only hotkeys. So I would recommend for you to do the same eventually. If you're starting with ZBrush, um, the best way you can actually start doing stuff faster is by memorizing some of the brushes that you constantly use. For example, I try to use a lot of the move brush. So I have the number 2 assigned to the move brush. So you won't see me going up here, pressing the brush menu, and then looking among all these brushes, where is the move brush? Where? So it's a lot of time that you invest looking for brushes. So you can assign hotkeys by pressing Control Alt and then clicking on the brush or the button that you want to assign a new hotkey. For example, let's say I want to assign a hotkey for which ones? The soft concrete, which I never use, but let's say I want to use the soft concrete often and I don't want to be looking for the soft concrete brush all the time. So I press B so I can have my brush menu, or I can go up here and I press Control Alt and press soft concrete. And after that, you'll get like a very small text saying that you need to press your next hotkey that will be assigned to that brush. So I'm gonna press 9 and it's gonna say that I already have that one assigned, but it's fine. So next time if I press 9, I'll get the soft concrete brush. So I don't usually use like a lot of brushes when sculpting. I try to keep it like in among 5, maybe 6 brushes, mainly the move brush at the beginning. The brush that I'm gonna be using a lot right now, it's gonna be the insert IMM primitives, which is around here. This one, IMM primitives. This one is gonna be it's gonna be my gateway to start adding a lot of meshes in my character. So right now what I'm going to be doing is pretty much just modifying the base shape of the face. Let me grab a lighter color on the background. So you can go to document and right here on the back, you can just pick a lighter color. I'm also going to remove the floor because it's quite annoying. So you can just press here, or if the other option is pressing Shift P, that will remove the floor. And I'm using the move brush just to get a rough silhouette of the face. It's not going to be entirely a sphere, but it's not going to be like, you know, a realistic character. But I want to keep some of the proportions close enough to a real face. So the next step is actually creating like the cavity of the eyes. Right now, you don't need to worry about following the concept entirely. We want to create a base mesh that we can modify depending on our concept. So I think this is pretty much good enough. Now, what I can actually start doing is pressing, for example, my 8, which is the hotkey I have assigned for the IMM primitives, and I'm going to start adding spheres. So, oops. Once you create a new geometry, everything will be in a darker color, meaning that everything has a mask on it, meaning that I can start moving this new sphere without having to change the main shape of the face. So I'm not trying to do a very accurate and following all the muscles on a face, because again, this is supposed to be a more stylized character, but I want to have control over certain features of the face. Right now, I'm trying to get like the main shape of a cheekbone, which is something around here.
Oscar, quick question.
Mhm.
We're asking if you can show a concept that you're using, or you're moving without the concept.
Currently, I'm not doing any concept. I do have some references of what I'm trying to get inspired by. So I have like a lot of like cartoony characters. So it's pretty much this what I'm going to achieve like today. Something more simplified for the hard surface stuff, maybe some tiara, something like this. But I'm not following a concept right now. If I were to have a concept, I wouldn't be like following the concept 100% right now, because right now it's just a blocking stage. Once I have like everything laid out with like the different spheres
Mhm.
and the shapes, for example, like
Yeah.
this is the nose. What I would do is I select my PureRef and I can actually change the opacity, so I can like see behind the PureRef, and then I can
Mm.
start modifying the shape using the PureRef as a reference. So you can press, well, The hotkeys on my PureRef, I changed them. So I think that you press Control and I think that the plus or the minus key to change the opacity. I'm not entirely sure. You'll have to press right click and then go to the settings and see which hotkeys do you have for your opacity. But right now you can change like the opacity and then press Control T to block like the PureRef. So I can click on top of it and it won't move. And for example, I can just lay something like this and start using
Cool.
the shapes to get the likeness. But currently I'm not doing that because I first want to get like all those sections to be movable.
Yeah.
So I want
So
to have
yeah,
my mouth.
yeah, somebody's helping. It's Control plus and minus
Oh,
default.
thanks. Yeah. I'm not sure why I changed them, but good to
Yeah,
know that those
that's
are
it.
the original hotkeys.
That's it.
So depending on the project, sometimes I don't get a concept. I get more of a rough idea of what they want to achieve, and some images that they're more like an inspiration. But some other times I do get like concepts, but they are very rough concepts without like a lot of views. More like an illustration with just one view, and that's it. So I recommend trying to do different exercises where, for example, you follow a concept that has different views, and then the next time try to, I don't know, follow a concept that only has one view, because sometimes that's what they're gonna give you, like a very rough concept that doesn't
Yeah,
have different
definitely.
views.
Professionally, you're more likely, I think, to work with one view concept,
Hmm. Yeah,
typically. Yeah, unless it's a
unless
likeness.
it's like a very important character, most of the
Yes.
time the concept art is not going to invest that much time on doing like a quarter view and a side view of a random character. So it's a really cool exercise just to take illustrations that are meant to be like concept art and then doing that, just following the concept and improvising, because you need to add some of your style maybe to the character, since for example you don't see the back or the side of the head, you need to improvise. So right now for the mouth, what I'm doing is again creating the sphere, creating like adding the sphere to the mesh and then using move. And once I have like the proper shape of the upper lip, I'm using dam standard, which is pretty cool because you create like these lines. But if you press alt, then you get like these creases, and I create a crease where it's like the upper lip. So you can actually use move just to get the shape.
Okay, quick question here. How can I set custom views to get front or side view just with shortcuts? Like how to do that in ZBrush? I guess that's the question.
As far as I remember, you can go to draw. No, maybe it's not. Yep. And you can, for example, let's say I have my PureRef in this angle, or let's say this one, which is more interesting. Something like this. I can go to draw, and you can create a hotkey right here with store cam. This is gonna save this view. You need your perspective for it to work. So you can select draw and then store view, store cam. I'm sorry, and let's say this is 3. There we go. Now we have a different view, which is gonna be from the back. So again, we go to draw, store cam. So you can start moving from the different views that you have with the arrows right here. So you have your side view, your back view, and you can, as I said, press Control Alt, click on any of these buttons, and you'll get a hotkey for those. So it depends completely on what you want to achieve. You can also, for example, let me move this because it's in the middle. So um, you can press Control. You can go to Preferences, enable Customize. Well, Config, enable Customize. I have the button right here, but this is my custom user interface, so don't follow it. I mean, you can create your own, which is what I'm gonna show you. You can pretty much select any um, anything from the brush menu and press again Control Alt and move it so I can place it, for example, where I have some space. Up, keep. So there you go. You can not only change everything on the user interface, but you can also have your own hotkeys to make everything faster. So if I were to store a new cam, instead of going to draw and then looking for store cam right on the bottom, you can just press store cam here and create a new one, and you can have different views. For example, I have one arrow right here. You can see that it's already changing into the different views we created. So it's a pretty cool way to create your own views, not only for side, front, back view, but also, let's say you're following, I don't know, this concept, one with more a little bit more of a side view, this one. So you don't have an illustration from the front or the side. It's more of like a perspective view. So you might want to try something a little bit more like this, and then store this cam so you can work from different angles. And when you want to work on the likeness or to make the concept closer to the illustration, then you can select your cam views, and that is going to help. Also, let's say we have this one. We want to start sculpting, but as you know, if you click on the canvas right here, it will rotate the model. So sometimes you are following, let's say, your view ref, you have it on top, and you're trying to follow it, and then you click, and then it moves, and you need to go back to your arrows to find the proper view, which is quite annoying. So what I recommend is when you have once you have this, I'm not entirely sure if this is from my custom menu or if this is how you find it on ZBrush, let's say default, but you can go to this button that has the camera and the lock, and that's gonna pretty much lock your view. So you can keep sculpting without the fear of moving the mesh. I think it might be here in draw. Let me move this guy and mm, yep, down here you can find it. So it's pretty easy to find. There's a big lock and the camera, which it's pretty obvious, but you can move it to wherever you find it easier. So right
Cool.
now, see, yep.
Cool. No, I was just saying, cool tip.
Okay, yeah, it's super useful because, well, at least from my side, I'm sometimes a little bit clumsy, and I start like sculpting, and then the model moves a little bit, and then I'm like, oh, I need to go back to the other camera, and it's pretty cool that you can actually lock your camera view in that way without like having to go into that much trouble.
Yep.
So I'm gonna create now the lower lip, which is gonna be pretty much the same as the upper lip. We use the IMM primitives.
So we started going into detail. We didn't go that far yesterday, so yeah, I think that's already, yeah, we're getting to the detailing phase.
Yeah, I try to get like the primary shapes first. Once I have them, it's pretty easy to modify the shape. So that's why I'm not really focusing on doing anything following any concept, because I can change the shape of the mouth or the size of the mouth later on. So again, I'm using time standard and just creating like this crease. Right now it looks pretty horrible, but that's why we still need to take our time to start changing the shapes of this. And again, don't worry if your concept has, for example, a very small mouth and you currently have a very big one. You can change that. It's the cool thing about ZBrush and not sculpting in a traditional way. You can pretty much do different variations on your mesh without having to worry about creating everything exactly from the very beginning. So you can see I'm trying to follow some anatomical landmarks, but I'm I'm not entirely like doing something that it's super close to like um uh, an écorché or something very, very anatomical, which reminds me, it's something very cool. Let me show you something that I use a lot for references. Right now, I only have one screen, but what I try to do is having on one screen my ZBrush and the other one having stuff like this. So I can, in Sketchfab, look for an écorché. And let's see, for example, this one. So the cool thing about this one is it's almost like having the actual figure in your hands. So once you load the model, you can see it from different angles, and it works with two screens. Only having one is gonna be tough, but it's a very cool way of like having a lot of references instead of having only images, which are cool, but sometimes for especially for anatomy, you want to have like different weird angles and see what's going on with the muscles and what's going in between what and underneath what. So it's pretty cool. There's a ton of different models you can find on Sketchfab, not only of like anatomy, but a lot of stuff. So if you're doing, I don't know, maybe a cat, you might be able to find the skull of a cat. So let's see if that's true.
Yeah, no, but that's cool,
Yeah,
definitely.
so you can find like the reference pretty quick.
The app he's on, I'm answering somebody's question, is Sketchfab.
Yeah.
Right? Is it Sketchfab?
Yep.
Or I'm just
Yep.
like
Sketchfab.
misleading everyone? Yes,
No,
that's Sketchfab. Yeah.
mhm. And the cool thing is you can actually upload your own models. So let's say you're proud of your own like hard surface robot with a lot of like details, and you want to use it as reference for something else. You can do that. You can upload the model and then just rotate it and place it on the angle that you want, and that way you have something different besides pure ref, which I love, but sometimes
Yeah.
you require to have something a little bit more dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna use another sphere. Again, if you see me like going into different menus very quickly, just let me know. For example, this is something that happens on my laptop. I'm not entirely sure why, but sometimes it will duplicate the mesh. The one underneath, it's like pretty much 2D. It's not something I can modify. And it's quite annoying. To get rid of that, you just need to press Control N, and that will clear the canvas. I'm not entirely sure what's doing that. It only happens on my laptop, but I mean, from time to time, it will happen also on the other computer. So it's a cool
There is
thing.
a question from Chris Dosey. If my concept bottom part of the face is covered with mask, for example, do I need to sculpt this part covered or just skip?
You can skip it. I would recommend try to do something like this, where you have roughly the proportions of the mouth and, like, for example, the nose where it's gonna be connecting with the mouth, just to have a rough layout of what's underneath the mask. I wouldn't go into creating any details or having like in a more advanced sculpture all the mouth and all that, just as a reference, because it's easier just to have then maybe masking all these and then creating the mask using the mouth and everything just sculpted as a reference. But it's something that I would try. First, creating like the anatomy of the character, even if he or she has a mask on him on his face. It's going to be useful because you might get the wrong idea with the mask. Maybe the chin is way too smaller or way too larger. So having something like this where you have the mouth and the chin and different parts of the face, it will help you visualize if you are having some trouble with the proportions, instead of just having like a big blockout of the mask.
True. I would just comment here as well that I think it also depends on how much time you've got, because in this case, like literally, you guys have like a week for the character. So you have time to invest in making the full face. Yeah, like just definitely do that. And for example, during the stylized course, we've got a bunch of artists stylized characters course that's I'm referring to the Art Heroes program. We've got a bunch of artists that create several variations of their characters. So, for example, like with a weapon covering the entire face, and then without it, and then like different variation of the same. That's definitely helpful for your learning experience. Like you're gonna learn a ton if you make the full face open, but yeah, if your concept, for example, for this character that you're making is covered with mask, you just maybe make a basic face underneath. Yeah, just like as Oscar says, just for you also. But if you have time to invest in your own learning, just like make everything, even make teeth, even if the mouth is closed.
Yeah, you never know when you need like maybe details like that. Maybe you want to animate the model later, and you might need the teeth
Exactly.
or stuff like that.
Yeah, right, right. But like imagine you don't have time and you really want to finish that character. You look at you have a deadline. You just have to, cut corners in one way or another. Going to be reading questions. Question: are you doing these primitives in different subtools, or are they all separate meshes on different subtools?
No, it's just one subtool. Right now, it's only one. That's why I'm using the IMM brush, because if I go, for example, like this, you can see that everything it's a single mesh. Right now, I don't need that much resolution. That's why I'm using just spheres. And at the same time, I have control over everything. So for example, let's say the face, it's looking way too wide. I might want to change. If I were to have every single sphere in a different subtool, I need to merge them or maybe do some other trick to modify them at the same time. But by having everything on the same subtool right now, I can just use the move brush and then start changing the shapes without any issues. So I try to do that at the very beginning. Later on, I'll try to split the different subtools, different sections of the character. Mainly the way or my reasoning behind splitting different subtools, it's if it's um, a different part or if it's a different how to say this if in real life that's a different part or a different material, then I'll try to have it as a different subtool. So for example, you have your skin and your head and all that. That might be just one subtool, the face, but the eyeballs, the teeth, the tongue, that might have a different material, the eyebrows, that might be a different subtool. That way you can have more control, not only right here on ZBrush, but later on if you want to do a quick render without having to worry about UVs and stuff like that. It's an easier way if you have everything into different subtools depending on the material. So if you have like this humanoid cyborg with a robot arm, then try doing the robot arm as a different subtool compared to the rest of the body. Um, right now I'm using clay buildup just to create, the cavity of the ear. It's quite important that you have back face masking activated, because otherwise if you go like very deep into your ear, you might start affecting the back of it. That's what back facing it's doing. So for example, if I deactivate and I start sculpting and I go into the back, you can see that right now it's affecting also the back of the ear. So I try to activate back face masking, which I have it up here, but you can find it here on brush, auto masking, and here is back face masking. It's really important that you have it activated when you are working on thin meshes. If you're working, for example, on the forehead of the character, well, it doesn't matter because it's wide enough that it won't have any difference on the back. But for example, for the ears, they're very thin, and you if you don't activate it and then you press Dynamesh, you might get these like meshes with a lot of holes on it because the geometry is very thin, and the software it's trying to get like this mesh, but it's so thin that it's starting to break. So it's a cool way to avoid problems in the future.
Cool.
So for the ears, one other thing that I really like of working, well, of this workflow, it's, as you can see, I have everything with these spheres. I haven't used anything but spheres that I'm just using move to modify them. But if I press Shift F or polyframe right here, which shows you the wireframe, you can see that everything has a different color on it. Change a different material. So that means that everything has a different polygroup. So I have a polygroup only for the ears. So if I press Control Shift and click on any of the meshes, for example, the nose, then I get like an isolated mode of like the nose. Then I press Control Shift and I drag and I get like the inverse. So I can start working without the nose. Control Shift, click on the canvas, will um, you will get out of that isolated mode. So it's pretty useful because you can start creating like a lot of shapes, and then if you want to focus only, for example, on the ears, you can start moving them without any issues because you have polygroups. So polygroups are super useful. Right now I'm using the gizmo. I press W and we'll getting like these traditional gizmo for a 3D solver where you have
Yeah.
like the rotate, scale, move, all that. And let's say I want to have the gizmo. We have it something like this. I want to rotate the ear. So I can do something like this, or I can move the gizmo right here. So it has like the pivot point right where the face is. To move the pivot point, you can press right here on the lock to unlock it and then move it. But I think that's way too much work. So I prefer to press Alt, and that will allow me to move the pivot point anywhere. I release Alt, and then it will be locked again. So I can actually rotate, and I won't have any problems with that. So that's a very quick way of working using the gizmo. Now I'm going to be creating the eyes. So I'm going to be using for this a different mesh. I'm going to split them from the mesh because I want to make some cuts. So I press Ctrl Shift, click on the sphere, and I go to split hidden. Again, I have everything up here, but you might find split right here on subtool, split, and then split hidden. Right now, because I don't have anything hidden, it's blocked, but otherwise you'll find it right there. Now, what I want to do is I want to duplicate the eyes in the same position. So if I actually move, you see that I have two eyes on the same position. And I press Ctrl Shift. I go to my brush menu and I'm using trim curve. I'm gonna activate the polyframe so it's more visible what I'm gonna be doing. And then I
That was
press
actually,
Ctrl
yeah.
Shift.
Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
Go ahead. Didn't want to
No,
interrupt you.
say,
Yeah, I was just going to say that there was exactly the question about that. When working in the eyes, eyelids, and the whole elements of the eye, do you do the same technique and can you show us? Ta-da!
we are connected.
Yes, Felipe, you and Oscar are connected.
Yeah, we share some kind of bond.
Yes.
So,
Can I throw you in one more question before you go ahead?
sure.
Otherwise, it will go too far. So, I mean, it's more of a philosophical question. How
Oh,
much
oh.
time do you spend, should you spend making sculpt of stylized character, like rationally? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a very philosophical question.
Yeah, it depends completely. Uh,
Somebody said until it's finished, but I don't think that's. I mean, I think that's a really good answer, but
yeah, it's quite complicated because it depends completely on what the project it's for. First of all, if it's for a client, pretty much the client tells you how much time you have. It's not like you say, I'll have a month and that's it. Sometimes you have a lot of time, sometimes you have a lot of less time. So it depends completely sometimes on the client. If it's a personal work, um, depends completely on you and how far you want to take the model. I've been working on models that I started like 5 years ago, and I left them on a forgotten folder and then took them back and reworked them. Usually, if I want to do like a very quick sculpture, like the ones I do on my streamings, it's usually around 4 hours to have something decent enough to be rendered. 2 hours, which is usually what my streamings uh,
yeah.
um, last. It's something decent enough, but around 4 hours will give me something more sturdy and more decent to show. So it depends completely on what you want to achieve. If it's just an exercise, then try doing something just for the sake of learning instead of time. But if it's for a client, then usually the client is the one that
Yeah, who
gives you the
tells you
time.
what time you have? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be pressing Control Shift, and then I create this line, which is gonna be cutting on my mesh. So I'm gonna be doing the eyelids this way, so I can. Oh, so I press Control Shift and I play sec while say I'm gonna say that again. I press Control Shift and then I press the space bar. This allows me to move the curve or the line on the canvas. I'm still pressing the three keys, which is Control, Shift, and Space. I release and then I can place it around here. That will make my cut. Again, it's supposed to be a curve brush. I'm just doing like a straight line. But if you want to create like a curve, you can press while creating the line Alt, and that will give you the curvature. If you press 2 times the Alt key, that will give you a hard edge and harder angle.
Yeah.
Oh, you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, of course. Like angle, sharper
Yeah,
angle.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, we're looking at your screen, so I think it's really obvious what exactly you're trying to say. You
Yeah,
said it with
pretty
what
much.
you, yeah.
So you can see I have my upper eyelids and this complete sphere, but I want to have my lower eyelids. I could do the same, create a duplicate of the sphere and then cutting away, but I can also duplicate this one. I'm going to press Alt, and this button right here will center your gizmo. So instead of being like this, we'll center the gizmo, and this will change the position to the center of the geometry, something like this. So I'm going to move it around here on the middle of the eye, and I'm going to rotate. There we go. Now we have three different meshes. We have our original eyes, the upper eyelid, and the lower eyelid. Now I'm going to select the eyeballs, and then I'm just going to scale them down a little bit. Now it
Nice.
looks quite weird, but we need to start changing the shape using the move brush. But this gives us like a lot of advantage because you can change the shape of the eyes, the size of the eyes quite easily. Eyes are one of the most important parts of the character, so invest a lot of time in them. If they're not looking good enough, try to invest a little bit more time because they're the ones that are going to be selling the character. Even if it's a cartoony character, the eyes, let's say, even if they're a simple dot on the face, you need to have them like really good because otherwise, even a dot could be look quite bad if you don't have any like care while doing them. So I'm going to smooth this one a little bit so it's not that rough of a change, and I'm going to create the eyebrows. So you can see that pretty much the workflow is like sculpting with clay or something like that, where you can have like those spheres that you keep adding to your mesh to create different shapes. I could go on and on adding the different shapes like this, but I think I'm going to start adding now details. Again, it's not entirely recommended that you go like this, adding details if you don't have like the main shapes, or maybe, oops, I think it's having some issues. There we go. Let me save this because I haven't saved and it's quite important. There we go. But for the sake of the workshop, I'm going to start adding some details to the character. So let's something like this. Now, let's say we have our character pretty much laid out. We're happy with the main proportions. Let me change the ears to make something smaller. And this is what I was saying at the beginning of the workshop. This is going to be a modular, always have issues saying that, modular base mesh. So if I want to have bigger bigger ears, I just need to select the ears and then scale them. If I want to have smaller eyes, I can go to my eyes. Well, this is something I recommend. I can actually merge the eyes that I created, so I can have everything together. And right now I have some weird polygroups. So you can see, because I did some cuts, I have some weird polygroups. So I can go to polygroups, here, auto group, and that will solve that problem. Now, the issue that has when you select polygroups, it's that you have a right side and a left side. So what I like to do is, once I created the new polygroups, I just select mirror and weld. You can find mirror and weld here in geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld. There we go. Now we have a polygroup only for the upper eyelids, for the lower, and for the eye glue. So if I were to scale down, I can actually change everything from my model. And this is the part where if I were to follow a concept, I'll start to placing my references on top and trying to get like the main shapes to match the concept. So you can see that just by changing the shapes, I can start, I start to have a different character quite easily. So for example, I'm gonna try selecting this one and making the eyelids a little lower.
Nice.
And it's a pretty easy way. You can save these and then use it for your personal projects. And then let's say you want to create a character more fat, you can start using the shapes and the polygroups just to modify your base mesh. Now, if you're happy with your base mesh, and let's say we are happy with this one, we're not, but let's say we're happy, we can actually merge them. So we can start sculpting in two different ways. The first one, you can use remesh by Dynamesh. So it's pretty much Dynamesh. For those of you who are not familiar with Dynamesh, Dynamesh is going to create a new mesh using these geometries, all the spheres, but it's gonna be merged together. It's, let's say if you're having like your sculpture in clay with different spheres and all that, you melt them to create a single mesh. So it's gonna be weird to explain, but it's easier if I just show you. So I go to geometry, Dynamesh. I never go into those menus because I have everything with hotkeys. So there we go. So I can select Dynamesh, and there we go. We have everything merged together. Now, we don't have enough resolution, so we lost all the details, so it's not good. We can change the resolution by moving this number a little bit up and hitting Dynamesh. Now, this is quite annoying as far as, well, in my case, I find this quite annoying. So what I try to do, instead of doing, I don't know, changing the number, Dynamesh, not good enough, changing the number, Dynamesh, etc. What I really like is pressing the gizmo again, and you can find this gear on the left. This will give you a lot of like deformation variables, and you can find remesh by Dynamesh here. Now, it will give you this cube with three different cones. The red one means projection, meaning that it will try to keep the details um, as much as possible. I mean, as long as the geometry has enough resolution, it will try to keep all the details. So we want that one on. To turn on or off one of those cones, you just simply click them and make it bigger. So big means on, small b means off. The blue one, it's the smooth function, which is gonna be doing big. It's gonna be doing the opposite. It's gonna be smoothing the mesh. We don't want that one. So having a blue small cone is quite good right now. And the important one is the white cone. That one is going to change the resolution. It's going to define how many polygons we have. So if we have a very small cone, oh, never mind. I forgot to change something. I'm going to delete. So at the end, once you're happy with the result, or if you're not happy, you can select to apply the changes or to delete them. I select to delete them, so it wasn't saved. So I go to remesh by Dynamesh again. But what I forgot to do is deactivate subprojection. Subprojection, what it's going to be doing, it's going to be doing a lot of tessellation. It's going to be using a lot of triangles to keep the shapes. We don't want that because we right now with Dynamesh, what we want is to have a very smooth surface where we can sculpt and we have a more decent resolution where everything has pretty much the same size on the polygons, because you can see right now I have some very small polygons, right? For example, on the nostrils compared to the ears, the size changed a lot. But if I select Remesh by Dynamesh with subprojection on, which is the default, something like this, there we go. You can see that it has a lot of artifacts everywhere because it's trying to keep the same shapes as much as possible by using triangles. So we don't want that. So we can go to the gear, and instead of hitting accept, we can go to delete. Now you can go to subprojection, turn it all the way to 0. Now remesh by Dynamesh again, and pretty much the same size the cone. We give us a gives us a very different result. So the bigger the cone is, the more resolution we have, the more details we keep. So for this stage, I wouldn't go like into a very heavy mesh like this one. This is way too much resolution for what we are doing. We are going to be adding details, but um, not wrinkles or pores, stuff like that. It's different stages. So we just finish the blockout. We're going to be adding details, but we don't need that much resolution. So I guess around here might be a better option. Yep. So you can see that pretty much keeps the polygons almost on the same size, which is good for sculpture. So now we go to the gear, which is right here in the middle. It's orange right now. And we select accept. Now we can actually, oh, never mind, you know what? It's not enough resolution. Um,
So we've got two questions here, Oscar. One is for you, the definitely. So let me start with this one. Where
sure.
could I find the deformers tool?
Um, I'm guessing you're meaning this one, which is like the deformers for the gizmo.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
select
I'm
the
pretty sure
gizmo,
it is.
W or E or R. Any of these buttons will do. It will have you will have your gizmo, and up here where the gear is, that will give you your deformers. Also, there's a deformation menu down here that, for example, it will let you inflate your model or bend it. So there's like two different deformations that I know. So maybe it's one of those.
Yeah,
Not
yeah, I'm
entirely
pretty sure
sure.
it was about that. And the other question is, Duarte is curious if you have any advice on how to get into 3D market and if you have any knowledge about the type of master's degree education for 3D artists. Um, I can take this one for a start. Like Duarte, from my experience with the industry, master's degree is definitely not required. So meanwhile, you know what you're doing and you're really good at your skill. That's, like what you need is like skills, community experience. Like really, I have never seen anyone asking for a degree like among studios and like employers and stuff like that. But there are definitely a whole bunch of good schools that can teach you everything from sculpting to animation. And yeah, there's like locally and online. And that's what we do with Art Heroes. There's a bunch of other schools that people in this community can recommend. You can just also shoot this question in the Discord channel, Discord server, sorry, and see where other people learned what they know. I don't know about you, Oscar. Well, actually, I know about you, Oscar. I know what's your experience. But yeah,
Yeah.
what's your take?
So it's pretty funny. I went to college to study like digital animation. As Maria said, you don't need a degree to work on this on the industry. The only thing that, as far as I know, the degree is going to be useful is, for example, if you're working, let's say you're from a country like Mexico or any place from South America or something like that,
Yeah,
and you
like
want to
immigration
move to.
purposes.
Mhm,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much.
Visas and
So
immigration purposes. Yes,
it's going to be
exactly.
super helpful, but that's pretty much it. It's not like the industry requirement. It's more of
Life requirement.
immigration. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Like immigration process is very different, but also after the COVID, again, like that's from speaking with a bunch of artists and HR people in the industry. Like the whole, it's opened a lot for remote work. So many studios that didn't have basically experience in hiring artists remotely are now doing that, and I know that. A lot of artists are getting into the industry with like for jobs with like international companies where they wouldn't be able to get into before just because of the location. So now it's just like even more flexible than before. I know that's the question that bugs everyone, but like I would always just say work on your portfolio and learn from the best. So just like keep learning. It's always just as important, and being connected is also important. So just like so that you don't lose track of the reality. Yeah. So yeah, Ruben, thank you so much for voting for the likeness course. Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate. Okay. Sorry, Oscar, we hijacked this conversation.
No, it's fine. It's super useful. I mean, it's super important actually, because I know a lot of artists, especially when they're starting, they really wonder if they should go like to a very, to be honest, very expensive and specialized college about 3D art and animation, which,
Right.
don't take me wrong, they're really great and it's gonna be super useful if you have the money to pay like an entire 4 years of that type of college. Then by all
Yeah.
means do it.
Where you're also probably not working. So that's also count the 4 years of, not
Mhm.
making money. Yeah. But
But yeah,
yeah.
to be honest, I learned more on the internet taking workshops like the ones from Art Heroes, that all those 4 years that took like animation college. To
Yeah.
be quite honest, I mean,
Yeah.
is it important? Yes, because of of like the immigration and all that, all those important documents. But knowledge based, I would recommend, instead of like taking the 4 years on college, maybe look for a workshop that really takes your keeps grabs your attention and that you're really into. And
Yeah.
as Maria said, you will get contacts, you will get like a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff besides the knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. And also say, like we live in a different generation, and I would just like call everyone to think for themselves, because in college you go through almost pre-designed program, and when you learn for yourself, you kind of handpick stuff that you think will be useful for you in your career, stuff that you're interested in, and like you can just make your own degree almost, but for way less. Like for example, you can become an animator and let's say a hard surface sculptor, like 2 in 1, and you can do it all within 1 year instead of 4 or even less. Like just it's a way different experience that we now have, and basically the old standards were set before all these opportunities existed. So it's just amazing how far we can go. I think this is really motivating. I mean, to me personally, it's very motivating that I can be like constantly learning and without going to college. Sorry, we're hijacking this again. Oscar, like I'm really afraid we're like almost running out of time. I know
Oh, I
we've
see.
got like a ton of ground to cover, but like I don't want to keep you here forever. Just wanted to say that that I'm
No, it's fine.
yeah. I'm aware of the timeline, but it's totally on you,
Yeah. So just let me know when we're like approaching to the end, so we can actually try doing some hard surface. But right now, what I'm doing is, once I have everything merged together into a single like subtool, you see that I still have my own polygroups. So I have a polygroup for the eyelids, which is super useful because again, I can start modifying the shapes. Right now, since I'm not following a concept, I can start improvising shapes. For stylized characters, I recommend a lot learning to use the trim dynamic brush because gives us like these hard edges, which they're very unique for hard surface, but for cartoony characters, they're really, really useful too. So you can start changing the shapes. Something I really like, especially for characters like this, is assigning some eye material, some maybe toy plastic, um, black color. So I'm gonna be this is far from done, but I'm gonna switch to adding some textures so we can
Yes.
actually
Some people are
do something like
definitely
that.
asking about texturing. I think texturing is a must. I think, like we can totally skip hard surface. I don't know if we have time for this, but texturing is definitely helpful so that, like people that are entirely new to this and also like somebody who's never textured maybe in ZBrush could move to the next stage with their characters so that, we can get a little bit of a realistic look and just like the
Yeah, sure.
the
So
feeling.
let's say we have our character finished. So this is not finished, but we have something like this. So usually the texturing part of the project depends completely on if it's gonna be texturing for like a production ready project, let's say for a video game or for animation, or if it's gonna be texturing for just the sake of having a render. Let's say for concept art or for marketing, where it's not really that important to have perfect UVs as long as they look good. We're gonna focus more on that side because the having the production ready textures depends completely on having really good UVs, which ZBrush is not really good for that. So ZBrush gives us a very decent UVs because they're automatic, but they're not perfect. And we are currently trying to get like some quick poly paint, some quick textures. So we're gonna try to do it like in the concept art way, where we have some quick UVs and some quick textures, and that's gonna be our base for the rendering and for the texturing. So right now our mesh it's quite high poly. Let me move it around here. Quite high poly. What I'm gonna be doing first, I'm gonna duplicate this and do a zero measure. So I have something that has UVs, or it's easier to make the UVs inside ZBrush. So it might take a couple of seconds. There we go. Now I'm gonna deactivate the eyes. I'm gonna be doing this quite quickly, but we have our geometry with zero measure with new topology and the high poly one. We want to pass the details from the high poly one into the zero measure one. So we need to check that both of them are activated. The subtools, we go to subtool, project, and then we project all. Then we subdivide, project all, subdivide again, project all, because we're getting more resolution, but we also want to keep details from the high poly Dynamesh one. So right now I have solo activated, which is a way of isolating the mesh. So if I select the Dynamesh one and then the new one, you can barely see any difference on the mesh, which is good. We don't need the high poly Dynamesh one. Now with this one, we can go to Z plugin, UV master, and unwrap. Now, if you have a very complex mesh, let's say something with a lot of loops and stuff like that, I would recommend dividing everything into different polygroups. For example, you can do something like this, where you can create a mask by pressing Control, dragging, and everything on the mask. If you press Control W, will assign a new polygroup. So something like this. So this is a neat way of doing the UVs quite easily, because sometimes if you get like a more complex mesh, the UVs will either way take a lot of time or will fail. So since it's an automatic UV mapping, we want to help as much as possible to the solver. So we're not sorry, we're gonna activate polygroups and then unwrap. And it didn't Jesus, didn't took take us ah didn't took us that long. So we can isolate the mesh and we can see how it looks if we work on clone, which is going to create a copy of this. We can actually modify, flatten, and that's our UVs. So they're not perfect, but they work for this. On flatten, and I'm going to delete this. This is the copy only. So we have our mesh. Now we want to start adding textures, paint to it. So I select the paintbrush, which you can find in this brush menu. I'm not entirely sure where, but it's called paint, which is pretty much painting brush. You can also use, for example, the standard. The only thing that you need to do is deactivate CAD. CAD means that you're going to be modifying the geometry. So this is CAD. Deactivate this and click on the model. Nothing's going to be happening. So you need to activate also RGB, which is going to add paint to the mesh. But it's pretty much a copy of the paintbrush. That's why I prefer using the paintbrush, so I don't need to activate or deactivate the CAD option. Now we need to create a base, a color, uh, a foundation of the color. So I'm gonna do color like this, maybe. I go to the color menu, fill object. That's gonna add the whole, it's like the bucket on Photoshop. It's gonna add all the color to the mesh. And now I can start adding colors. For example, I'm gonna select some reddish, pinkish color. And for example, I'm gonna create on the warm parts, for example, the cheekbones, on the lips, nose, just this rough layout on the main colors. Later on, we'll start mixing them. For example, we can add some yellow on stuff like the forehead, where there isn't that much blood, chin, the outer part of the ears around here, and some blue on the cavities. For example, right here on the eyes, around here. So now that we have like this layout of different base colors, what we want to do is, for example, I want to select the standard brush, deactivate CAD, have RGB on, and I'm gonna select with C, it's a color picker. I can select an in between of these two colors, the yellow and the brownish. Oops, there we go. Between the brownish and the yellow. So I'm gonna select an alpha. The alpha will give us like a stencil on how the texture is gonna be painted. And this one is very important. We're gonna select color spray because it will give us like a not only the two colors that we're using, which is the brownish and the yellowish, but also a mix of them. So you can see that it starts to be like a blend of colors. So you can start painting and then pressing C to color pick and then painting again. So the idea is to merge them, but I don't want to have like the fill object where you get like just one color. I want to have a blend of different colors and tones in different sections. So it's pretty much just pressing C and painting.
Nice.
C. Yeah, it's a quick way of doing like the skin of the character. So let me turn the eyes on. So feel free to just experiment with it. I mean, I'm using some normal humanoid colors, but you can do this pretty much with any color. Once you
Yeah.
have like the base, you can start then picking more specific colors that you want to add to the character. Maybe on some of the parts like the nose and the chin, maybe having brighter colors. And for example, you can also use your own stencils. You can create an alpha in Photoshop, which is a black and white image, just like these ones. Let's try this, and red. So if I select this one, it's going to be pretty much the same I've been doing, but I want to try different stroke, which is drag and rect. And I'm going to change the focal shift so it's harder. There we go.
Oscar, I think we're gonna, I think this is more of already like a very detailed. So, I mean, I don't want to like ruin the party for everyone, but I think, we're just probably gonna take a couple of more questions. I don't know, like 5
Sure.
more minutes and start wrapping up. What do you guys think? What would be? Can I start throwing you in some questions?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. What would be the advantage of painting in ZBrush instead of Substance?
It's faster. I mean, what I try to do at the beginning on a project is to create the basic layout of the colors, just like this on ZBrush, because for me it's easier to paint on ZBrush. And then what I do is I export everything, the mesh and the colors to Substance, because Substance is way better for texturing. But to create the base color on ZBrush, it's quite useful.
Right. Agreed. Definitely. And it especially I think for anyone new to the everything like character experience, just like staying in one software, it's it's probably beneficial for your learning process, just gonna smoother curve. Another question here. Can you bucket paint a polygroup?
Sure. I mean, it's pretty much the same. You can select a polygroup and then select fill object, and we'll paint the polygroup.
Cool.
You need to isolate the polygroup by pressing Ctrl Shift, and that will isolate the polygroup. And then by pressing fill object, it will fill whatever you have activated. Even with mask on, if you have, for example, something like this, I press fill object, it will respect everything except for the part that was like masked.
Right. Nice. 2 more questions, guys. 2 more questions, and we're gonna move to the raffle because we've got this as well. So Dave is asking where you'll render this.
If I were to render this, let's say this is for like either fun or as a concepty piece, like concept art pieces, I would try Keyshot. It's way faster, or maybe Blender. Those two options for fast rendering, it's quite good.
Yes. And how do you export with the textures?
How do I what?
Export with the textures. Wait.
So how do I like become an expert?
I think no, export like render. I guess.
Export. Oh, okay. Yeah, good question. So we already have our UVs, which is the important part. Otherwise, you are not able to export them. So you can go to C plugin, multi-map exporter, and then you select, for example, the texture. We're not going to use normal or anything like that, just the poly paint. The size, right now it's 4096, and create all maps. And it's going to ask us where do we want to save them and the name, and that's pretty much it. We'll save the files. That's one way. The other way, which is a little rougher, you can go to texture, create new from polypaint. You create the copy, clone texture, click on it, and then export. So you can see it's a lot of more steps. So I prefer the plugin multi-map exporter.
Awesome. Guys, I would definitely love to keep this session for way longer, but we typically prefer respecting everybody's time, starting from Oscar. And I don't want anyone here to have a FOMO that they can't commit to a really long session and they can't watch everything. But yeah, so as promised, we have a raffle like right now. So I don't know if you, Oscar, prefer to keep sculpting. I'm totally fine with that. I'm just gonna open like a long document of everyone who submitted their whips, and I'm gonna shout out, like I'm gonna randomize it, and I'm gonna shout out the first like person who comes up with our randomizer.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, and so the scholarship for today is a 3D printing program, the one that was made by Martin Verhoeven. It's a
Oh,
really
wow.
cool add-on for anyone who's, who would like to explore 3D printing, like, and how to prepare your model for 3D printing, basically how you can, what you need to do to make any character, anything you create in ZBrush 3D printable. So yeah, what I have here is a bunch of your Discord names and Instagram names. So I don't really have your real names because that would be a next level task for us. We already had to fish for a bunch of information to make this list. So anyway, let's do this. And if you are this person, if you are alive, just make sure that you say something, okay? Oh my God. 1 second. 1 second. Okay, it's doing something. So, oh, wow. Luckily, this one is actually a name. So this is Lauro. I'm trying to pronounce it correctly. Lauro Gutierrez. Yeah, so Lauro.
Gutierrez.
Yeah, Lauro Gutierrez, if he's around, Lauro, say hi, because you've just been picked. Yeah, we have a little bit of a delay here. So if Lauro is listening, let's make sure that Lauro gets what he deserves. Otherwise, I'm gonna move on to the next one. Okay, congrats, Lauro. Well, let's see if he's online. Okay, so looks like Lauro is not here. I'm gonna give it like 3 more seconds. Well, wait, guys, don't say congrats. Like, no. Okay, maybe that's somebody else. Well, Lauro, you just, that's fine. Maybe you had to drop out. It's gonna be like a really huge bummer if he's gonna listen to this in the recording.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so next one, peeking again. Yes, we're driving this again. So that's a nickname, definitely. And it's Brimi Q, something like this. Brimi Q. That's definitely a Discord name. So who is this Brimi Q person? I don't know. Yeah, that's the name of the Discord account, right? And I'm gonna do the third one. And if nobody is here, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna
I
probably
get
give it.
the workshop.
Yeah, you can. I'll give it to Oscar.
It's on my wish list, so
Oh my
I
God.
won't say no.
Okay. Yeah, Jesus. This is okay. Final one. Lotte. But that's too short. Just like, is there anyone who's named Lotte? Anyone super lucky? My YouTube name is different. Well, let's see. That's me? Well, number 2. Really? That's number 2? Okay. Is it Geeky Ninja? Is it a joke? I hope it's not. Well, anyway. Okay, let's I just pulled up Geeky Ninja. Yeah. Oh, and Lotte. Okay, fine. 2 people randomized. I can't say no now. My bad. Like, we've got 2 people with 3D printing workshop. Congrats, guys.
Nice.
It was
Congratulations.
like, yes, and Lotte is here. Amazing. So there are 2 people. Hi, Lotte, and hi, Geeky Ninja winner. Well, we just doubled the prize. It was not intentional, but I'm quite happy that we've got congrats, Lotte and Geeky Ninja. Nice.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah. Okay. That's great, guys. Thank you so much for showing up live. Before we get going, just a quick one for tomorrow. Oscar, what's their assignment?
They already have like the base mesh, so
Yeah.
I would recommend merging everything together and start achieving like the likeness with their concept. So start sculpting. No longer use spheres to block out everything, just start sculpting, and preferably start thinking about colors and different materials. So start splitting everything into different subtools.
Yep, that's a good one, guys. So please make an update on everything that you learned today. Oscar, that was a great class. I agree. That was really, I really loved how you picked it up from like get go, from like a sphere, and just like we were supposed to start with the base mesh, but we started with the sphere again, and it was great. So yes. Guys, for tomorrow, please keep posting your whips. We're gonna have another round of scholarships tomorrow. So so there is another raffle of scholarships getting ready for you, and the winners of today, please message us, message 81 from Art Heroes, or just message us on Instagram. That will be probably the easiest way, and we'll get you your scholarship. So Oscar never disappoints. Thank you. Yes, I agree.
Thanks, guys.
Oscar, yeah, never. That's true. Okay, so for tomorrow, update your characters, apply some textures, think of the way you're going to do it. And tomorrow we've got an amazing session with Ugo Sena about hair. So that's definitely the next step. So for tomorrow, we're going to be talking about creating like stylized and even realistic hair. It's going to be straight hair and curly hair and just like everything that, like you can think of, like hairstyles a little bit. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. Same time, same place. We're going to email you the joining link. So set a time on your calendar so that you don't miss it. And like, again, answering the question about whips, you can post them on the Discord server. And you can also tag us on Instagram so that we add you to the gallery of whips. We add some of our favorite whips. Like we can't add everyone, otherwise Instagram will ban us probably. I don't know how many stories you're allowed, but I'm pretty sure we're closer to to the maximum. But would really like to feature all of you. Yes. Okay. That's it. Oh, Alfredo, thank you for giving me shout out. Yeah, of course. I'm giving a shout out to everyone. Give us a like to this video. That will definitely help more people discover the amazing world of ZBrush, and just, like the amazing world of us and the amazing characters of Oscar. Okay,
Thanks.
So that's it. I'm wrapping this up. Thanks everyone for coming. We were 300 people on peak, and that's quite amazing. So like if everybody gives us a like, we're gonna have like 300 likes. Anyway, it's in my dream world. Okay, Oscar, thanks so much. That was great. Everybody loves you, and see you guys all tomorrow. I'm ending the broadcast.
Thank you for having me.